Why do unhealthy foods tend to be tasty? That doesn't seem like a good evolutionary response. It's unhealthy because we have access to them in abundance. But for most of our evolutionary history, we didn't. Starvation was a huge killer, so we evolved to crave fatty and high-calorie food because of that. Back in hungry times, these were great nutrients. It's only quite recently that we have way too much of them. We are machines that run on sugars, carbs, fats, and proteins. It actually is evolutionarily advantageous for us to want to seek out sugar and fat-rich foods. The problem is that technology and efficiency outpaced evolution by a lot. Fatty foods aren't inherently unhealthy, it depends on the type of fat. And sodium isn't inherently unhealthy either, we need quite a bit of it to function, even. It becomes a problem when we are consuming several 100% of the amount we need, daily. Starving to death is really unhealthy, so our tastes are adapted to provide incentive to seek out high-calorie density foods. They would have been relatively rare or difficult to come by during millions of years of our ancestry, before the last brief period where we've had an enormous agricultural surplus to eat ourselves to death with, or foods engineered to be more palatable than anything that occurs in nature. It's actually a fantastic evolutionary response, at least in the environment it developed in. The issue is that we changed the environment. In pre-agricultural societies, fatty, sugary, or high-sodium foods were extremely rare. You'd be lucky if you ate one every few months. As a result, you ate as much of it as you could when you could get it, because you might never get it again. The issue is that now, it's always available. Evolution didn't come about with fast food in mind. Humans are hardwired to crave salt, fat, and sugar, because early on, the foods with high contents of those things provided us with the energy to hunt and gather and survive the elements. Our bodies rewarded us with dopamine for refueling it with these kinds of foods. Fast food and junk food being packed with salt, fat, and sugar is no coincidence. It intentionally preys on the human predisposition for those salts, fats, and sugars, knowing that it produces that dopamine reward and knowing that it's addictive. It's unhealthy to take in more salt, fat, and sugar in 2 hours than our ancestors would have had access to in a week, especially since we are doing much less to work it off, for obvious reasons. But our bodies still crave it and still reward us with dopamine when we drink it. They are not unhealthy by themselves. We need fat, salt, and sugar to survive. Eating only that and not doing physical activity is the problem. In the modern context, because it is artificially modified to taste good, it's not a natural evolutionary response, it's a response to a diet altered by the food industry, and how we eat in modern society that has changed the norm for how most people's hunger hormones respond. If you eat a totally clean diet, processed foods are not appetizing at all for the most part. If you want to read up on how to reset your gut and start craving healthy foods, I suggest reading some books about nutrition and understanding things like how leptin and ghrelin function in correlation with our hunger cravings. Fats are extremely rare in the wild. When you come across it, it won't last long, so we have an evolutionary response to crave them so that we eat it when we encounter it. Fats being widely available is a very recent phenomenon. They were scientifically curated to be as tasty and addictive as possible. In short, because they are unnaturally abhorrent. Pass the flamin' hot Cheetos, please. Do they not teach evolution or history in schools anymore? Honestly curious. Healthy is a relative concept. Before modern technology, taste served a real purpose. Nothing in nature that is sweet is also poisonous. So we developed a connection that we like sweet things. People used to be much more physically active, so we developed a need for carbohydrates to keep us working hard. Now, with modern technology, these instincts aren't as useful. We are generally confident that the food we buy is safe, and we don't typically have high physical demands on us. But our bodies are not built to understand that, so we eat diets that don't match our body's needs. This is further exasperation by corporate greed trying to sell what people will buy the most of rather than what is healthy. Evolution is the reason we like eating unhealthy foods. Back when foods were scarce, high-fat foods provided the most calories and increased our chances of survival. So the people who were drawn to eat more of those types of foods were more likely to survive. Now that food is abundant, high-calorie foods still taste good, but just make us fat. Fat, salt, and sugar are hard to get in nature and packed with calories to help you survive. Basically, and now that we can them easily, that basic survival instinct is actually pretty detrimental. Because companies have figured out taste buds and additives,